What you're about to see is disturbing. There is crude language in this. This is graphic, and we do not know the context around this. We don't know what happened before this video. Protesters are gathering at the scene at this hour. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said this about the incident a short time ago.
It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened?
Take that hat off.
Officers were out in an enforcement
you
action.
Shit fuck.
They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over.
The mayor of Minneapolis is also speaking out, calling that official line from federal authorities a lie.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is.
Let's go out to the scene now. CNN's Whitney Wild has been tracking this story. Whitney, what more are officials there saying?
Well, as you heard, it was a profanity-laced press conference from Mayor Jacob Frey. Very angry. He believes that the narrative coming out from the Department of Homeland Security is simply untrue. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement earlier that this was their narrative that they laid out, that this person had, basically was trying to block these ICE vehicles as they were conducting a targeted operation. They say that the vehicle drove toward an agent who feared for his life and feared for the life of other officers and members of the public and discharged a firearm. They are saying that this shooting was, based on their statement, it appears they believe that this shooting was completely justified. Obviously, Mayor Jacob Frey has a completely different perspective on that. You have seen this video. We are still getting more video from people who are on the ground here. I spoke with one
Trayvon Martin,
and that man told
Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Rikia Boyd.
Suggested that any of those ICE agents were ever in grave danger. Let me walk you through what we're seeing here on the ground right now. There has been a crowd here for several hours in the aftermath of the shooting. People here are very angry. What you're hearing now...
I don't care about skin color. I care about law enforcement murdering Americans. That's what I care about. Law enforcement is supposed to protect Americans, not murder them.
We're seeing the Hudson County Sheriff's Office and the Minneapolis Police Department. It looks like actually they're taking away some of
this whole fucking government's got to answer for this right now.
I'm not clear on if they're condemning.
I'll go out in the street and start fucking screaming, if you will.
This is interesting because before they had, you might not be able to see it, but before they had bike racks here, they appear to be taking it away. So it's
Who's gonna go out and scream first? All these across the board have to resign right now. The entire fucking government has to resign.
Closer to feeling like this investigation is wrapped up. Again, this crowd is very angry. I spoke with multiple people today who say that they did not ask for this. They're angry. ICE is here. They were scared something like this would happen, and now they know that a member of their own community has lost her life. A 37-year-old woman has lost her life today. Again, this all comes amid this ramped-up immigration effort here where DHS has 2,000 DHS agents are spread throughout the Twin Cities. Again, their largest immigration operation.
Man, I feel like going to Minnesota right now.
And we're very angry about that operation at all. Now today, their anger is heightened.
I'll just get into philosophical conversations with ICE.
They think in this moment is protecting ICE and not them. So a lot of anger here in Minneapolis. Back to you.
Oh no, I'll be murdered.
We know it's probably difficult for you to hear us, but we could.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna go. I'll be murdered.
Let's turn now
Never
to
mind.
Josh Campbell. And as Whitney noted, Josh, this is a ramped up recent immigration effort. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem was in Minneapolis yesterday highlighting it. Earlier today, before we heard from local and state officials, we heard from DHS Secretary Noem who was saying that the ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. Walk us through the video, because a lot of people are going to look at this, and again, there's a lot of context around it we don't know, but they're going to look at this and they're going to have questions about whether it matches with what we're hearing from Kristi Noem.
That's right, and she also quickly came out and declared this an act of domestic terrorism, which objectively, if you look at that video and what we see, there is no indication yet and no proof that the Department of Homeland Security or the Secretary have provided that this is domestic terrorism, which means violence in pursuit of a political aim. This is a very legalistic term. We know that in the past, Noem has had issues, for example, struggling with the concept of habeas corpus when she was testifying before Congress. But that's important because for her, the top official, to declare this domestic terrorism means that there are potential other ramifications. And again, what we see in the video is it appears that these ICE agents approach this woman who are in her car. They're attempting to get her out of the vehicle. We know that she was not the subject of an...
She's Secretary of Homeland Security, and she struggles with habeas corpus.
But as the vehicle then moves away...
Habeas corpus is a right of the president.
The tires go to the right. And so again, that question is raised. If her goal was to run down a federal agent, and she had the opportunity of one standing there in front of her, why did she then cut the wheels of the car to try to get away? So a big question there. But the actions of that officer himself will also be obviously under review. Legally, agents can use deadly force whenever the subject of that force poses an imminent threat to themselves or someone else. That agent has to articulate what the threat was. Now, we do see in that vehicle, from that video, that the vehicle does appear to make contact with that agent. So at that point, under policy, the agent could articulate, look, I was in fear for my life. I have this vehicle.
I didn't list them,
the also be a big question.
Most famous one, right?
Officer from coast to coast knows a lot of this comes down to judgment. Just because you can do something, should you? Could that agent have moved out of the way if this is someone who was, fleeing and didn't, it wasn't an indication of any other type of violence? Brianna, a good point that I also want to raise, which you had brought up, was the proximity of other agents who were near the gunfire.
George Floyd,
saw just, that agent near the window.
A 46-year-old African-American man was murdered in Minneapolis.
I'm here in Los Angeles, where we had recently another incident where an immigration agent
Derek Chauvin
to take a suspect into custody. The agent opens fire. He shoots the suspect. He also shoots a U.S. marshal that is there trying to help with the immigration detention. And so there have been a lot of big questions raised about these aggressive tactics by these immigration agents. Are they operating under lawful order? Obviously, the president says yes. This is his.
What about the Minneapolis question? When are they going to ask the Minneapolis question?
Of how these agents are going about it certainly have raised a lot of eyebrows, even within the law enforcement community itself. And now, obviously, we're seeing this very questionable incident play out here. Last point I'll make is that
I sent this to the New Yorker. That's Susan Glazer and David Remnick. I don't know. That could go in the New Yorker, couldn't it?
Said that this agent was in fear.
The original one was not very nice. This is
see a lengthy investigation,
at least
sometimes months, sometimes a year.
Semi-abstract, semi-impersonal.
Happened saying the agent was right.
Josh Campbell, thank you so much for that context. Let's go to Whitney Wild, who's now been able to access the actual site, the scene of where the shooting transpired after investigators towed the car away, the vehicle away, and finished their work on that site. Whitney, what are you seeing?
Right now we're seeing people come and put flowers.
Yeah, so anyway, I was, it was interesting. I was talking to somebody that I know. This is not going to be about that shit. I don't have anything to say about that shit. So somebody, it was quite interesting because I mentioned something about, I don't know, my presentation on my YouTube channel and like certain aspects, of my presentation that I try to at least make it halfway entertaining. So it's not like being subjected to, some dude in his pajamas who's trying to parse like 5 words of some obscure Frege text. Like, see, I got new glasses. I actually changed the lenses on these. These are old ones. And she's not native-born English speaker, and she is quite well educated, the person I'm speaking about, and I had some reason to mention to them about something about my presentation, and she says, "Oh, I've seen some of your videos," and I started laughing, and I was half nervous because if somebody's seen videos, like, I don't know what they've seen, and it could be like a number of things, and I started laughing and saying, like, "Oh, well," I just tried to make jokes about, well, I don't know what I'm going to need to answer for here. I'm ready to, I'm ready for anything. And then she started saying, "Oh, no, it's the language. I don't know. I have a hard time with the language." And then she went back, she started talking about something else. And I thought, okay, well, I thought that was kind of curious. And, maybe she didn't want to talk about it. I mean, that's what it kind of seems like. So, I can imagine plenty of things that I say might, you might, in your heart of hearts, so to speak, you might think, okay, finally somebody said it, or finally somebody said something like close to something that I identify with, and that's good, that there's this kind of like conceptual lubricant that's being aggressively unleashed into society and culture. I have reason to believe that I'm representing something that we all look. Here's just a thought experiment, and it doesn't really even have to be based in reality at all. Let's try it in slightly veiled euphemistic terms, okay? Okay, there's a political party that is very dogmatic and very aggressive. And nationalistic. And they are called Naga. Naga, like Nag Champa, like the incense. N, like Nancy, Naga, Naga. And let's suppose that there is a dating app that is called Binder. Okay, now the political party Naga, they have these big events, these big rallies, and we are to imagine this dating app called Binder at the Naga rallies. Binder just lights up like crazy, okay? Now, strictly fictitious discourse, totally hypothetical, no harm, no foul. Hey, I'm just a philosopher. So, right? Who represents your interests? Me. Look, why shouldn't card-carrying Naga individuals have a sex life? And if some of them use an app called Binder that allows some of them, a nice chunk of them at the Naga rallies, to connect and meet each other, right? Sounds pretty good. So, like, I'm defending those interests, the interests of the individual who affirms the absolute sovereignty of their own sexual response and their own sexual decisions about their body, period, no matter who you are. That is a fundamental, ground level, foundational human right. Every man, woman, child, and everything beyond, and everything in between, what have you. Every individual is a sovereign, autonomous zone where sexual judgment only issues from the subject themselves and no other. No husband, no wife, no father, no children, nobody except that individual person. Yeah, I represent that. And so it's very hard to really take up any agonistic position against me because of the fact that what I actually represent, which is most roughly and broadly the Kantian project, the Kantian rationalistic enlightenment project. All the best things about ordinary human life are supposed to be included in that project. All the most immediate and demanding aspects. That includes all your health, all your sexuality, all your music, your spirituality, your religion, everything. Your politics, everything. It's in there. It's in your morality. It's in your ethical person. So I represent the best things of that. I mean, and we're at a stage, that the challenges we have in this country, in other words, they are not ideological in any meaningful way. Because in order to have an ideology, you have to be literate. Not only do you have to be semi-literate, you have to be learned. Every ideology has its own thinkers. Now, I know the traditions that I draw from are vast, and everybody knows that I'm somewhat powerful synthetic thinker. I love names. I'll just start listing names for you and chaining them all together and making them all work in one big pumping, thumping system. Any fringe political movement is necessarily, if it has any ideology at all besides just pure force, it's going to have look to some learned people. But if it's a philosophy of identity where it's merely A equals A, so every gesture of force that makes an identity affirmation at the same time is also causing a rift and a difference, and that's why factions always splinter. That's the phenomenological description of factions splintering. It's because there is no such thing as a self-identical system. It would either be frozen in time like the third law of thermodynamics, or it would be like gear cogs grinding together with no leeway or clearance between the tines, such that the cogs just literally grind to a halt because they're too tightly bound up together. There needs to be leeway, a lot of leeway, in order for different regimes to push each other forward. There needs to be interpenetration, and there needs to be mutual push and pull and all of that. That's a matter of difference, not identity. So, if literacy presupposes, if ideology presupposes literacy, then no illiterate conceptual opponent is an opponent at all, because they don't even gain admittance to the conceptual edifice. So it's just such an easy, it's such an easy, it's not even antinomial. I mean, one side clearly just mops the floor with the other, if it actually tries to. So, but I mean, I can't do it alone. I need other punks on my side. Then we make a big massive steaming pile of punk rock shit. You get punk rock enough, you get in enough people's faces with your gnarly fucking stinky shit, right? You're gonna get them to stop and pay attention. But if it's one person, then it's just pathologized. You need a bunch of people together. At least you need a number of people to at least send me a smoke signal and say, yo, Dimitri, like, right on. So at least I know what I'm working with, what kind of support I'm working with. I'll keep your identity completely confidential. I just want to know what I'm working with, in the bones. Thank you, y'all. I love you. For real, you know that. Do you? Well, I do. Why don't you try to hold me to it sometime, and I'll prove it to you.